Hey guys, during this video, let's talk a little bit about modafinil. And I'm a somewhat experienced user. I've been trying it on and off for about 3 years, although I was exposed to some of the other forms of it beforehand, like modafinil. And I like the modafinil a lot, but I like Moda a little bit more. And it really seems to be a drug where people either love it or they hate it. And I can really relate to that because there's certain projects or periods of my life when I really don't like the stuff. And there's sometimes when it does have its uses. I've found that it really does make you enjoy work, but just hate everything else. So if you're somebody that has trouble with having like discipline to shut off things like social events, or maybe you spend time doing useless things like just watching a ton of YouTube videos, or again, like sports or TV shows, modafinil is something that's good that way because again, you're just so engaged in your work and so engaged in being the most productive and best you that everything else really just doesn't matter. If you're taking other nootropics that may hurt your drive or like lower your drive a bit, like Bacopa, modafinil will definitely more than make up for that. You're really just engaged in your work, overly ambitious, you can say. But what I don't like about it are several things I'll talk about during this video. Firstly would of course be the crash. And you'll notice this after ingestion, I would say maybe like 9 to 11 hours later, it'll start coming in and you'll not really notice it unless you've taken modafinil a few times, but you're far less productive than normal, and your energy levels are so low that you just don't want to do anything. If it's your spare time and stuff, you won't be enjoying it as much. And the signs of that are that your energy levels again will be low. You're so fatigued that you don't want to really do anything. Nothing seems too appealing. You sort of have that anhedonia, I think that's the term, when things that typically interest you, like your hobbies, you just don't really have interest to anymore. But let's talk about some of the stuff that modafinil is good for. Modafinil is great for focusing, particularly like you can just extend the periods of time that you work, and you work without a break. So if you're somebody that typically like works for maybe 90 minutes well or 2 hours well, and then you need like a good break, like 20 minutes of just zoning out, maybe taking a nap or doing a meditation. What I like about modafinil is you just don't need that break. You want to keep on continuing with your work. However, you kind of can get in like a cycle there of being very unproductive. So I would recommend that you do just take like a little bit of a break, or make sure you have some water to ensure that you're as resourceful as you can be. But that is something really cool about modafinil. You can literally just sit at your computer and work all day if you really have to. So if you're like a programmer, then I would say it's a really good alternative to taking something like Adderall or taking something for ADHD. It's definitely much safer, and that's a scenario where you would take it. Or a scenario where you have like a deadline, you have a project, and you really just have to focus and get things done. Particularly like schoolwork, I would really say that modafinil is worth checking out. But for people in sales, or people who, and I've talked about this before, you're making presentations, you will not be, your results won't be as good with modafinil because you just seem to be so stimulated that you'll notice like subtle things. When you're interacting with somebody, for instance, you'll be less comfortable with silence, which is important just to be observant of things. Just talk and listen to people. The way you can really just have a great conversation is just be a good listener. And these things are tough with modafinil because you seem so stimulated that you're not, you're just not really there. You're not really able to read other people's emotions as well. You're just sort of observing yourself. You're like looking at yourself from different eyes, and that's why it's such a good tool if you're somebody that is like has a tech job or just has work where you can where you're staying to yourself, and it doesn't it doesn't really involve other people. But if you're taking modafinil, I would say start off with a very small dose. I would say you should take it in the morning, and like first thing in the morning, as it's less likely to interfere with your sleep. If you're somebody that's taking other drugs like an antidepressant or something for your thyroid, just look and make sure that there's no interactions and that you're taking it at the right time. So some people, for instance, they're taking a drug that has to be taken itself, so you wouldn't have it at the same time as modafinil. Maybe like, take a half an hour break even between. So for me, typically if I'm taking it, I'll wake up, I'll take my modafinil, I do everything in my morning routine, and then I'll take personally me, I'll take my pre-workout drink with some caffeine, some tyrosine, and some things that'll get me going. And then I go off to the gym and have a great day. But a good sign that like you've hit the ideal dose of modafinil is that you sort of don't notice that it's working until like the end of the day. Like sort of like, 6 or 7 hours after ingestion, you feel like, wow, like, why am I so productive? Why am I in such a great mood? Then you know it's modafinil working. That is a good sign that you've hit the dose and it's your sweet spot. However, your sweet spot may just vary depending on how much sleep you get. Like if you're somebody who's severely jet lagged and you wake up and you know you're not your best self, that's a scenario where you're better off taking more modafinil. However, in terms of if you're assuming you're like a well-rested individual and you're taking modafinil and like 3 to 4 hours later, you just notice you're laser focused, but you sort of have too much energy than normally, that's a sign you've taken too much. And the disadvantage of that is that your judgment is just way off. Like your judgment is impaired. Your priorities may not be as clear to you at that particular time, and that's important. You have to be judging sort of like what are the most important 1 or 2 things that I get done today. But overall, I like this stuff a lot. You may be a different person when you take it, although your mood is really improved, and just be careful because it is very, very, very addicting. Anything which is going to enhance your mood is going to naturally be addicting, like caffeine. People don't realize, but it's such a strong mood enhancer. So just be careful that way, as you can really just trick yourself into thinking, I don't need to sleep a lot because I have modafinil now in my arsenal of tools and something to watch out for. But if take it responsibly, start with a small dose. Make sure you're hydrating all day. Like I've got one of these. I've got this mammoth mug. Got the idea from someone at my gym. It's like $20 and this is a gallon of water. So, just have water with you all the time and make sure that you're supplementing with choline. That would be a great idea. I like alpha GPC. Hope that was helpful, guys. That's modafinil. It's a great tool and I'll look forward to seeing you all next time. Don't forget to click subscribe.